Welcome everyone, it's good to see all of you. Is there any questions that you brought along?
Sure, yeah. Something, and that's exactly right, something that comes up and tends to, something that's difficult for the mind to let go of. A negative aspect that tends to grasp onto that. At times that it might come up, and at other times it might not matter.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, maybe you're in a situation with in a relationship to another person, in a work situation perhaps, and maybe you feel hard done by in that situation, so you feel quite negative about it. So the mind plays on it. It doesn't seem to have an outlet, it seems to go around and around.
Yeah.
But at other times, if you're feeling good, you've kind of forgotten about it, it may not be there. Surprisingly, sometimes.
Yeah.
It eventually comes back.
And how the practice might help with that. Well, I just mentioned in the guided meditation that when you are practicing, to concentrate your mind, you're building inner power. You're strengthening your mind. When usually, why most of us suffer a lot in our daily life is, first of all, due to our behavior, and second of all, due to the absolute lack of power inside of yourself. So that the mind is all over the place. It does whatever it wants, right? So that is a primary cause for experiencing this kind of difficult situation. In other words, you are not the creator of your experience, but experiences happen to you, right? So meditation as a remedy, more or less indirectly, when you're training your mind to remain quiet, calm, stable on one point, you're also training your mind to be able to simply let something go and simply assume another kind of perspective, just like that. Why is it that we cannot usually do that? Why is it so hard for us to sometimes think positive? Like your friends might tell you, hey, don't be so negative, think positively about this. Why is that so hard? It's very simple, because you don't really control your mind. Right? That's an experience we're all sharing, I guess. We're not able to control our mind. And that's a very important aspect of spiritual practice, is the ability to control your mind. There's nothing bad about controlling the mind. It's simply one facet of the path. It's like in the process of eating food and getting energy from your food, there is one part of that process that is digestion. Well, there's one part of digestion that's in the mouth, one in the stomach, one in the intestines. So there's various different parts of it. And every part belongs. We cannot just say, oh, the digestion that happens in your mouth is bad. You shouldn't have that. You should go straight to the belly. Sometimes it strikes me when I hear some teachers actually teach that way. They say, just be present, you know. And they leave out all the other facets of spiritual practice, while their advice is, it's proper, it's correct, it's correct, but it's also not entirely correct. So we have to see what it is that we need in that very moment. And so today, maybe I focus a little bit on that particular aspect, because it's very It's very close. We can reach it easily. We can do it easily. It's not very far away. It's not very high-minded. Everyone can do it. Okay, and all it takes is a bit of practice. It's not that much actually, but you have to do it consistently. You want to build power in your mind. Why wouldn't you want to build that anyways, right? So you build power. What will happen is, first of all, everything inside you will begin to stabilize. You feel much more grounded. You feel much more okay with yourself, kind of at ease, relaxed. And you become much less reactive. So if things are happening, you'll find that there is some sort of buffer building up. There's a sort of a latency between the event and your reaction to it. That will become much larger, that space. So you notice, something is going on, and usually before you would have immediately reacted to it, you would have immediately bought into it and immediately took it on board and then kind of roll it through your mind over and over again. But now that your mind is more stable, that cannot happen anymore. So you have almost like a kind of a shield around you, a buffer. That's pretty good. This is very nice to have. It even works in situations that would be where most people have this kind of shock inside of themselves. Something happens and they shock, everything contracts in them. If you do a lot of meditation, that will stop. You hear a thunderclap or something like that at night, the lightning comes and it goes boom, and it's very loud. Like people jump up in their bed. You don't get that anymore. It stops. You're so relaxed that these kind of things don't happen anymore. Your whole system changes. Your body, your nerves, everything rewires. You're very settled inside of yourself. That does not mean that you become somehow dull and you're unable to react to things when they happen, like you're standing in the middle of a street and a truck approaches you and you're just kind of like in that state where you're so slow that you don't know anymore what's going on. That's not the case at all. You're very clear and you can react very clearly. And some of the reactions that will happen, they come out of a very deep part of yourself. It just takes over. That will still be there. But this kind of anxiety, fear, being shocked and so forth, that falls away to a large extent. Also, just in general, like being anxious becomes far less. It's impossible to feel a lot of anxiety if you're well composed, if your mind is stable and well settled. It just doesn't run off and fuel anxiety anymore. It just doesn't do that. It's not as fluttery anymore. Only a mind that is anxious is a mind that is easily steered up. It's like a leaf on a tree and the wind comes and it already flutters. A bit of wind is enough, the leaf immediately moves. Something happens in your life and you immediately react. And it becomes this big thing when it's just nothing. Sometimes I hear things, and I see like online and whatnot, like little things that happen, like small, insignificant stuff, yeah? And people make a huge deal out of it. How is that possible? Like sometimes even enough if someone looks at you the wrong way, and you cannot sleep in the night, and you're brooding over it, thinking, how dare he, And you don't even know if that person was actually angry at you or not, or maybe they just had a bad day, or maybe they were just looking, being in their own mind, and it has nothing to do with you, but you make it all about you. That cannot happen if you're well composed. If you're settled in yourself, if you do your practice, if you actually really do it, you will change. So you have that buffer, right? you have a chance to choose your reaction. So here is this aspect of being much more in a creative position rather than in a victim position where things happen to you. She did this to me, how dare she? He said that, unbelievable, how could he, you know? I think this stops. Instead you ask yourself, how could I approach this in a better way? Could I just let it go? Is it really that important? Should I just drop it and move on with my life? Or do I need to waste hours, days, feeling angry about this? If you had a choice, let's say it like that, you'd never do that to yourself. Why make yourself miserable, right? Why are we doing that? Why are we making ourselves miserable? Because I can tell you one thing, nobody makes you miserable. Nobody. Only you. There's nobody in this world that does anything to you. Ever. But you do it all yourself. So yeah, there might be an event at your workplace, for example, or what in your family or something, or you read something online and the fire starts, it ignites. That is a sign that you need more practice. Like every kind of suffering in life that comes to you, it's kind of an invitation. It pushes you to your boundaries. It's almost like life is giving you a little blessing. It asks you a question. Like here, it hurts, right? It hurts, right? You don't like that, right? Don't you want to do something about it? And the best question it could possibly ask you is like, don't you want to just stop? Hurting yourself for hours and days and weeks. And it doesn't matter how clever your reasons are for hurting yourself. It's still pretty much unnecessary. Even if you have the best reason ever. It's just more hurt in this world. Isn't it? There's just more pain. You have... The way you can see it, maybe it's helpful. You don't have two human beings in a room. You have two states in a room. Don't think of a human being. It's too like a thing. It's too much like a thing. Think of yourself as a state. I am a state. What state are you right now? And of course, you know, later on you don't need to think of yourself as being anything. But for now, just for the sake of practice, assume there is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 states in this room right now. What's your contribution to this room? It'll be a contribution to the overall state. Probably right now your contribution is quite neutral because you're listening. Right? When you're listening, your mind is like open. It doesn't formulate and it doesn't fabricate anything. It's a good state. That's why people, by the way, enjoy listening. They go to a talk like this and they listen for an hour and it's like, wow, that was nice. You know why it's nice? It's not because of the stuff that I say. It's nice because right now you're not thinking of your problems. Just for half an hour. You're not thinking of poor me, miserable me and my problematic life, me and my difficult story, me and this, me. Just right now it's not there, is it? You're just kind of just open, spacious right now. It's funny, you're naturally right now in a state that is quite close to good meditation. You just don't know it. That's the missing ingredient. If you're meditating, You are in that state and you know it. Right? Some people say, wow, babies are totally present, so they are like enlightened masters. It's not true, because babies don't know that they're present. That's the difference. So babies don't have the self-knowledge. They're just being there. Okay? So if you have that aspect of self-knowledge coupled to that, yes, there would be for a baby, it would probably, if a baby could, be quite easy to see itself as it is. It wouldn't create a lot of stories and problems and whatnot, complications. But it's a bit more easy, it's a bit more close to a more refined kind of state. It's still fresh, the mind is very fresh, it's not heavy, it's not loaded with stuff. So you want to keep your mind that fresh every time. So a wonderful way to deal with that also, when you are empowering your mind, what happens? Your mind is much more in the present moment. A strong mind isn't scattered into the future and the past, fabricating a lot of stories. Because why not? Because it hurts doing that. Now you might wonder, does that hurt? Like if I think of my future and my past, it doesn't necessarily hurt, right? Yeah, because we are mostly doing that all the time. So we don't know how it is not to do that. It would be like a fish in the water philosophizing about how it is breathing air on land and walking around into a shopping mall. The fish can philosophize a lot about that and can think a lot about this, but he will not know how that is. In fact, he doesn't know what water means, because he's in it all the time. In the same way, we are in thinking all the time when we are awake, so we don't really know how painful it is. Only when it stops. Then we know. People like to go below thought. For example, when they watch TV or watch YouTube or something like that, you go below thought. Your thought line and your story stops for a moment. That's why we do this, not because the information is so useful or whatever. We do this very often if it's entertainment. Then we do this because it kind of switches our own story off for a moment. And why would we want to do that? Well, because our own story is unbearable. And why would we do that to ourselves? Like constantly telling ourselves a story of our life and the me, the person that I am, and the others around that person, and this and that. And it's so unnecessary, and it's so tight. It's a prison, isn't it? So what you want to do is learn to release that story. And you don't do it by fighting against it. You do it by finding stillness. And you do that automatically when you're just with your breath. You're training the mind to be just with one thing. And if you're with one thing, your mind gets into the habit of doing that, and it feels really nice, just being with the breath. It takes a while in the beginning because you're still full of stories. But when you make it to a certain point and you accumulate critical mass with your meditation, meditation starts to fuel you. It becomes very, very beautiful and nice. Because you enter such deep states of stillness, and all the story falls away, all the meanness falls away. And all that's left is just happiness, right? They have this little cartoon where they show the guy sitting on a park bench with a sign in his hand that says, "I want happiness." And a monk comes walking by, and he just kind of erases the I and the want. And then he sits there with the sign, happiness. So it's all these stories, these fabrications, you let them go, you subtract, you let everything fall away. The thing that you have left is happiness. We're unhappy and we're miserable and we have all these problems because we're so full. We have just too much inside of ourselves. So space is nice, isn't it? We enjoy space. You go out into nature You walk around the dam here, for example. It's beautiful. Why? Do you like it? Space. Why people sit by the beach? Why do they like it? It's a vast space in front of you. Why do you like to go up to the Cape, to Promtet Cape, and you watch? It's the space that we like. You have a hard day of work, you sit in your little chamber, you watch the screen the whole day or something like that, and you go out in the evening or in the morning and wow, it's big space. Your mind opens up. When you have that space, it's impossible to disturb you in any way. You just release it directly because you understand clearly it serves no other purpose than to perpetuate pain. That's it. And once you make it up in your mind, you make your mind up, you make a decision, I don't want to keep perpetuating pain. I'd like to shift my purpose of life to the purpose of letting go of pain. So my state becomes one that everybody benefits from. Every other state can benefit from. So you enter the office and where you are, there is a diffusing action happening. Conflict, tension is diffused. It opens up, it becomes spacious. You know why? Because you're holding space. And it's not the modern new agey type of holding space for someone. It is a literal emptying out into your own space. It's more like that. You can't hold space, right? It's not a thing that you can hold. But you can release everything into it. Because space is already there. You cannot make it. How would you make space? How would you hold it? It's already there. It's underlying all phenomena. It's underlying your mental phenomena, your emotional phenomena. It's underlying the physical phenomena. Everything. Space is underlying it. So you simply release everything back into that space. You find the spacious quality, you let go into it. And you're bringing that into the room. The crap of other people who are in the room will also dissolve into that space. If your space is strong enough, if you're open enough, then it will diffuse conflict quite naturally. People don't even know what's going on, but they suddenly feel a bit more calm, a bit more relaxed, a bit more happy maybe. So there's a huge possibility, and it all starts with really making it a thing to train your mind. Train it. You don't need to sit cross-legged to do that necessarily. No need to. You can, start your training with making it a point to do what you're doing 100%. A few times during the day. Maybe you're in the pool, you're swimming a few rounds. Then make it a point while you're swimming to watch how you breathe and to stay with your breath as you're swimming, or feel the water, or you pick one, you choose, have fun with it. But then keep the mind with that and make it a fun game to keep the mind with that. Because the mind wants to run off and wants to do this and that, and you will see how nice it is. I like to go to the sauna sometimes, and I go sauna. I absolutely love it because it's so nice to just be in the water. No stories, no whatever. I'm just in the water, then I hop into the steam, then I'm just in the steam, and I breathe, and I love that feeling, and I'm just in that nice feeling, and I concentrate on it. I go out to take a shower, then I'm just with the shower, and I'm so relaxed after that. It's so nice. And if I go to the sauna and I bring my work problems into the sauna, and then my things that I'm working on, and my plans, and my busyness, and all that, my thinking, I don't really feel relaxed after sauna. Not really. Not as much as when I'm just really there and I'm enjoying it. Watch out how many things we do to relax actually, and we don't really do those things. You're looking into your phone, or I don't know, you're doing other things. Maybe not being really at the space that you wanted to be at. Sitting in a beautiful restaurant, thinking about things that happen, thinking about things that will happen. It's an invitation to really come into this moment and hold your mind there. Don't let it escape. Making your mind strong. This is internal push-ups. And when your mind becomes very strong, you can do things. As I said before, you can do quite a lot. Great things. Let go of pain. Create happiness. Help others because you're available. And many things more. Okay? Now that's all that comes to mind for today. Thanks for the question. Okay? Everyone happy? All right then, guys. Have a nice weekend. Enjoy. Thanks for coming.